The trial of the strange soldier. Jack Carter's eyes burned as harsh white lights flashed in his face. He was no longer on Earth. His hands were tied behind his back with glowing cuffs, and two tall alien guards pushed him forward through a wide, metallic corridor. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. The hall opened into a large courtroom, round, silver, and cold. Alien women sat in high thrones all around the circle. Each one looked different, but all had sharp eyes and firm faces. Jack stood in the center, a prisoner with no voice. A deep, commanding voice spoke from above. It was translated by a hovering bot in a soft, robotic tone. You, human soldier, are charged with trespassing sacred ground and causing disruption in our mating cycle. How do you plead? Jack frowned. What the hell is going on? The translator didn't repeat his words. The aliens muttered among themselves. One of the older alien women slammed a staff onto the ground. He admits no guilt. But he is guilty, the bot said. The punishment, ritual participation. Jack's heart skipped. Wait, what does that mean? The bot hovered closer and replied, You are to take part in the union ceremony. You will mate with selected females to repair what your presence disturbed. He blinked. You want me to do... What? Before he could argue more, the guards pulled him away. The alien women didn't even look at him again. Except one. She sat, at the edge of the circle, younger than the others. Her eyes were soft, purple and glowing faintly. She watched Jack with a strange expression. Sadness? Curiosity? Then she looked away. Jack was thrown into a chamber made of crystal walls. Inside were soft blue lights and strange symbols drawn. On the floor, 3 alien women stood inside. All beautiful, all very different. One had silver skin like a statue. Another had wings folded behind her. The third, smaller with brown skin and short white hair, stepped forward. She introduced herself in a broken accent. I am Serenia. Jack stayed quiet. You not? Like this, I know, but you must survive, she said slowly. The silver-skinned woman scoffed. He is weak. He's human, said the winged one. They break easy. Serenia glanced at Jack again. Be careful. You touch wrong, girl, you die. Jack stepped back. I didn't ask for this. Suddenly, a loud bell rang. A voice spoke through the room. Let the first night of the ritual begin. The lights dimmed. The 3 women backed away to their corners. Jack sat in the center, confused, angry, and scared. He looked around, unsure what to do. That's when he noticed something odd. There was a small camera in the corner. He was being watched, not just for mating. This was a test. Later that night, Jack laid down on the cold floor, refusing to sleep, in the soft, round bed at the center. He didn't want to be a part of this. He was a soldier, not a toy. He closed his eyes. The silence was heavy. Until... click. The sound of something unlocking. His eyes snapped open. He rolled to the side just as a blade slammed into the floor where his head had been. The winged woman stood over him, eyes wild. She attacked again. Jack dodged and grabbed her wrist. Stop. What are you doing? She hissed. You're not chosen, you're poison. I kill you, I get freedom. Before she could strike again, Serenia threw herself between them. Stop, she shouted. A sharp noise rang through the chamber. The winged woman froze. Red lights flashed. Violation detected. Guard presence authorized. Seconds later, a door opened and more alien guards rushed in. They pulled the winged woman away, screaming. Jack stood in shock. Serenia touched his arm. You sleep now. You need it. Tomorrow. More danger. He sat down, still shaking. Why are you helping me? Serenia looked down. Because I see you not monster. You not animal. You, like me, trapped. Then she walked away to her corner and laid down. Jack stared at the ceiling. So, this was the start of his punishment? A strange trial, a forced ritual. And an alien girl who didn't want to hurt him but seemed just as scared. He had no weapons, no backup, no escape. But he still had one thing, his will. He whispered to himself, "All right, if this is war, then I'm not going down easy." Outside the room, the young alien woman from the court watched the camera feed in silence. Her lips barely moved. He might be the one. A prisoner among brides. The next morning, Jack woke up with a sharp pain in his back. The floor was cold and hard. He sat up slowly, remembering the attack from last night. The winged alien woman who had tried to kill him. Guards had taken her away, but the fear still hung in the air like smoke. He looked around the room. Only 2 alien women remained now. Serena sat in her corner, brushing her white hair with a crystal comb. She didn't look at him, but she spoke quietly. "You are still alive. That is something." Jack rubbed his wrists. "Yeah, lucky me." The other woman, the one with silver skin, stood near the wall, arms crossed. She had not said a word since the night before. Her eyes were cold. Watching. The door opened with a soft hiss. A tall alien male, dressed like a servant, entered. He carried a tray of strange fruit and something that looked like bread for the ritual pair, the translator bot said, floating behind him. Jack narrowed his eyes. "Pair?" Serena stood and walked toward him, her eyes downcast. "Tonight, you and me. First test." Jack frowned. "Test?" She nodded. "They watch, they study. They want to see if you can bond. Not just body, but spirit." Jack sighed. "This is insane. I didn't choose this." Serena suddenly looked up, her voice firmer now. "You think I choose this?" Her eyes narrowed. "You are not only prisoner human." Jack stepped back. For a moment he saw the pain behind her eyes. Not anger, just exhaustion. Like she'd carried this burden for years. Hours passed. The lights above dimmed, signaling evening. The room changed. The walls glowed soft red. A gentle hum filled the air. It was supposed to be romantic, but it felt like a trap. Serena walked toward him again. This time she wore a long robe of silver and blue. She looked beautiful, but her hands shook. "I won't hurt you," Jack said quietly. "I know," she replied. "But if we fail, they hurt us." She took his hand and led him to the center of the room, where the soft bed waited. Jack sat beside her, unsure what to do. Serena didn't move closer. She just looked at him. "Tell me, what is Earth like?" Jack blinked. "What?" "Earth," she said again, her voice softer. "Is it free?" Jack looked away. "Sometimes, not always," she smiled slightly. "Better than here." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she whispered, "I was born for this, trained since I was little, to be a bride, for the ritual. I used to dream of something else." Jack listened quietly. She continued, "But when I turned 16, they marked me, said I was perfect, good genes, good spirit, so now I must give a child to the house." He clenched his fists. "This is wrong." She nodded. "But it is our law." Jack looked at her again. "Do you want to do this? Tonight?" Serena paused, then shook her head. "No, not like this." He smiled. "Then we won't. At our..." That moment the camera above buzzed. The walls flashed red. "Connection failed. Bond not complete," the bot announced. The door burst open. Guards stormed in. One grabbed Jack, another reached for Serena. But Jack stood up fast, blocking their path. "Don't touch her." The guard raised a weapon, glowing with energy. Serena shouted, "Wait!" Everyone froze. She stepped forward and held Jack's hand tightly. Then she looked into the camera and spoke loudly in her native tongue. Jack didn't understand, but the bot translated. "The bond is not of flesh, it is of choice. I choose him and he chooses me." Silence. The guards looked confused. They had not expected that. Then the bot replied, "Request, under review. Tribunal. Must decide." The guards backed away and left. The door closed. Jack turned to Serinya. "What did you say?" She smiled faintly. "That we chose each other." He raised an eyebrow. "Did we?" Serinya whispered, "I don't know, but it was the only way to protect you." Later that night, Jack couldn't sleep. He kept staring at the ceiling. This wasn't a jail. It was a prison of culture, tradition, fear. But something was changing. Serinya was not like the others. She didn't see him as a weapon or a prize. She saw him as a person. He wasn't sure where this would go, but he knew one thing. He had to survive. Not just for himself, but for her. Outside the chamber, a secret room lit up. The same young alien, woman from the tribunal, watched the screen. She smiled to herself. He resists the ritual, but he bonds in truth. Interesting. The secret behind the ritual: the next morning the food tray arrived, but Jack didn't touch it. He just sat against the wall, his arms resting on his knees. His mind was full of questions. Why him? What really was this ritual? And who were these women? Prisoners, rulers, or something in between? Serinya sat across the room, quietly watching him. "You didn't sleep," she said. "Neither did you," Jack replied. They shared a tired smile. Then Serinya stood and walked toward him with slow, careful steps. In her hands she held a small glowing orb. She placed it between them and pressed the center. The orb lit up, projecting a small hologram. Maps, faces, alien text. Jack blinked. "What is this?" Serinya whispered. "Truth," she pointed at the screen. "This is the House of Varel, my house, one of 5 that control this world. Each year, one female is chosen to take part in the union ritual, to bring power through bloodline." Jack frowned. "So, it's about breeding?" "Yes. But not just babies," she said softly. "It's about control, legacy, status. If I carry a child from a rare species like you, my house gains favor." Jack stood up and paced the room. "So they're using me, like a stud?" Serinya looked down. "Yes. That's why the tribunal picked you. You're not a criminal. You're rare." Jack clenched his fists. "Then why the trial? Why pretend I'm guilty?" She looked up. "Because if the people believe you're being punished, then it's easier to accept what happens to you. It's all a show, a performance." He sat back down, eyes hard. "And you? You're okay with this?" Serenya's voice cracked. "No, I hate it. But if I refuse, they give me to someone worse." A quiet knock echoed. The door opened just a little, and a young alien girl slipped in quickly. She wore servant robes and kept her head down. In her hands was a folded note. Serinya took the note and read it. Then her eyes widened. "They know," she whispered. "The Queen knows we didn't finish the ritual. She thinks I'm protecting you." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Isn't that true?" Serinya didn't answer. She turned to the servant girl. "Where did you get this?" The girl replied, "From a rebel, a watcher. They say, the human must not fall into the Queen's hands." Jack stepped closer. "Wait, rebel? What rebels?" Serinya looked at him with a serious expression. "Some in the lower houses believe the ritual is cruel. They hide in the tunnels under the palace. They watch. They wait." He folded his arms. "And now they're watching me." "Yes," Serinya nodded. "They think you're different because you refused." That night the lights never dimmed. The usual soft red glow didn't come. Instead, the chamber stayed bright, cold, alert. Jack sat on the edge of the bed. "They're testing us again." "No," Serinya said. "They're preparing to separate us." Jack stood up. "Then we leave. Together." Serenia smiled sadly. No one leaves the ritual. He walked to the wall and placed his hand against it. Then we find another way. A sudden boom shook the floor. Sirens screamed through the walls. Security breach. Unauthorized presence in ritual chambers. Serenia's face went pale. It's them, the rebels. The door burst open, a tall alien woman with war paint on. Her face stood in the doorway. She had metal armor, scars on her arms, and fire in her eyes. "We're taking him," she said in Serenia's language. Serenia blocked the path. "No. He stays with me." The warrior narrowed her eyes. "You had your chance to escape. Don't waste his." Jack stepped forward. "I'm not going without her." The warrior stared at him, surprised. "You would protect her?" she asked. "Yes," Jack said simply. The warrior studied them both. Then she nodded once. "Fine. But hurry. The queen is coming." They rushed through narrow tunnels behind the wall. Cold air blew in their faces as alarms echoed above. Jack held Serenia's hand tight. "What happens if they catch us?" he asked. "They make us vanish," Serenia said. "Forever." They ran past chambers, statues, and old metal doors. Finally, the warrior stopped and opened a hidden gate. "This leads to the lower city," she said. "You'll find others like us." Jack turned to her. "Thank you." The warrior looked at Serenia. "You were always too soft. But maybe that softness will save us all." Then she disappeared into the shadows. As Jack and Serenia stepped into the cold air outside the palace walls, they saw something strange. Alien women standing on balconies watching them. Not shouting, not alerting guards, just watching. Some even nodded. Jack whispered, "They don't want this life either." Serenia looked up. "No, but they're afraid to fight it." Jack looked down at her. "Then we'll fight it for them." Serenia squeezed his hand. "We'll need allies." He nodded. "And we'll find them." In the distance, the city lights shimmered. But above them, the queen stood in her chamber, watching through a large crystal screen. Her lips curled into a cold smile. "Let them run," she said. "Soon, they'll come to me willingly." Face to face with the queen, the tunnels led to a silent chamber deep beneath the palace. The walls were made of old stone, cracked and forgotten. Jack and Serenia stopped to catch their breath. Water dripped from the ceiling. It smelled like dust and rust. Serenia leaned against the wall. "We're close. One more path and we reach the rebel base." Jack looked around. Strange. Place for freedom. Serenia gave a weak smile. Freedom is always hiding here. But something felt wrong. Jack's soldier instincts kicked in. He grabbed her arm. "Move now." Too late. The floor lit up in circles of blue. A net of energy slammed down from above, wrapping around them both. Jack fell to his knees, screaming as the shock hit him. Serenia cried out beside him. A deep voice echoed from the shadows. "Did you really think you could run from me?" Footsteps. Smooth, elegant. The queen entered, her gown shimmering like liquid gold. Her head held high, her eyes sharp and calm. She wasn't angry. She was smiling. Guards dragged them into a bright throne room, very different from the tribunal. No crowd, no judges. Just the queen and her glowing throne, rising like a tower of crystal. Jack tried to stand but was pushed down hard. Serenia was forced to kneel beside him. She kept her eyes down, afraid. The queen walked slowly, circling them like a predator. "You impressed me, human. You resisted. You inspired. You ran." Jack spat to the side. "And I'm still standing." The queen chuckled. "Yes, for now." She turned to Serenia. "And you, little flower, you've bloomed into something unexpected. I thought you'd be quiet, obedient." Serenia's voice was shaking. "I only wanted to choose." The queen's smile faded. "Choice is dangerous," she said coldly. A wall behind the throne slid open. A massive screen showed the city above. News reports, images of Jack holding Serenya's hand, alien women watching them run. One image showed a group of younger females copying Serenya's silver-blue robe. The Queen pointed. "You see what you've done? You broke the illusion. They believe in you now." Jack stood slowly, even as the guards pointed their weapons. "Good. Maybe they'll stop following monsters." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You think me a monster?" "You locked her in a cage," he said. "You forced me into a ritual. You pretend it's tradition, but it's slavery." She walked to him and leaned in close. "And yet you stayed with her, you protected her, you bonded with her." He didn't answer. "Why?" the Queen whispered. "Why didn't you run when you had the chance?" Jack looked at Serenia. "Because she's worth staying for." Serenya's eyes filled with tears. The Queen turned away, silent for a moment. Then she said, "You may think you've changed something, but nothing changes unless I allow it." She raised her hand. The floor cracked beneath Jack and Serenia. They fell into a lower pit, dark, full of wires and cold walls. A voice came from above. "One final test. Survive this chamber, and I'll consider your request." Jack grabbed Serenia as they hit the ground hard. He winced, helping her stand. The lights blinked on. Dozens of machines powered up around them, tall, metallic, and fast. Combat drones. Serenia whispered, "This is where they send traitors." Jack pulled her behind a pillar. "Stay behind me, I've fought worse." The drones attacked. Jack moved fast, dodging blasts, using debris to block shots. He found a broken rod and used it like a spear, jamming it into one drone's core. It sparked and collapsed, but there were too many. He was thrown across the room, blood in his mouth. Serenia screamed. She crawled to him, shielding his body. The drone stopped. The Queen's voice echoed. "And still, you protect each other." Enough. A platform lowered. The Queen stepped into the chamber, alone. She looked at Jack, bruised, bleeding, and Serenia, crying but still defiant. The Queen raised her hand. "You win. Not because you are stronger, but because you refuse to become one of us." She looked around the chamber. This ritual was made to control. But maybe it's time. It changes. She turned to Serenia. "You may leave. With him." Jack looked confused. "Just like that?" The Queen smiled. "No, not just like that. I will watch. If your bond is true, others will follow. If not, everything crumbles." She walked away, her voice trailing. Behind her, "Be ready. The galaxy is watching now." Outside, the sky was turning orange. Jack and Serenia stepped into the light together, free at last. But freedom, they knew, was only the beginning. Because now, they had to change a world. The ritual begins, but changes everything. The wind outside the palace walls was colder than Jack expected. It wasn't freedom yet. It was the start of something bigger and harder. Serenia walked beside him, quiet but calm. No more chains. No more glowing walls. But the fear hadn't fully left her eyes. They had escaped the Queen's test, but not her gaze. Somewhere up high, the Queen still watched. And in every part of the city, whispers were rising. The human and the chosen. Bride escaped the right. They defied the Queen. They broke the ritual. And now, others were listening. A day passed. Then two. Jack and Serenia hid in the lower quarters of the city, among workers and cleaners. The place was old, dusty, and filled with silence, but it was safe, for now. They stayed in a room under a mechanic's shop. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The floor was cracked, but no one came knocking. Serenia sat by a small fire, watching the light flicker. "Everything feels different." Jack nodded. "Because we're no longer part of their game." But he was wrong. That night there was a knock. Serena jumped. Jack moved to the door, careful, alert. It was the warrior rebel, the one who had helped them before. She stepped inside with two others, both wearing hoods and weapons. "You've caused a storm," she said. "Now you must lead it." Jack frowned. "I'm not here to lead anything." Serena stood. "What do you mean?" The warrior pulled out a small device. It projected a screen. Images from across the city. Alien women, all ages, dressing in Serena's colors. Groups gathering in silence. Graffiti on the walls. "We choose. No more ritual. Bond, not breed." The warrior pointed at the images. "They saw you resist. Now they want to follow, but they need proof." Jack narrowed his eyes. "Proof of what?" The warrior said plainly, "That your bond is real." The rebels had a plan. One last ritual. Not in a chamber. Not under control. But in the old garden of the palace ruins, where unions were once made freely. Long before the right became law. Union of choice. A bond with no force, no tests, no watchers. The warrior looked at Jack and Serena. "Will you do it? In front of the city?" Serena's voice trembled. "Yes. If it means freedom for others, yes." Jack looked at her stunned. He slowly nodded. "Then I will too." The garden was overgrown and broken, stone arches covered in moss, statues fallen. But in the center the original circle still stood, old tiles shaped like stars. Hundreds of alien women stood in the shadows, watching, hoping. Some came with daughters, others came wearing broken chains. Jack stood beside Serena in the center. This was not about marriage, not even about love. This was a choice. He took her hand. "I'm not perfect," he said. "I don't know your world, but I know I respect you and I want to build something better together." Serena looked up, tears in her eyes. "I was born for the ritual," she whispered. "But now, I choose you." They kissed. The crowd gasped. Not because it was shocking, but because it felt free. Suddenly, bright lights flooded the garden. Guards poured in from every direction. The queen stepped from a large transport ship. Her dress glittered, her face unreadable. She walked into the circle alone. Silence followed her. Then, to everyone's shock, she raised her hand and bowed. The guards froze. She stood straight and spoke, voice echoing. "This is not the ritual I created, but it is the one they chose." She turned to Serena. "You were always strong, but now you are also wise." Then to Jack. "You changed nothing, human, but you helped others see." She looked at the crowd. "From this day forward, the ritual ends." Gasps, tears, smiles. Alien women hugged their daughters. Others fell to their knees, crying. Freedom had come, not from war, but from one bond of truth. That night, Jack and Serena sat under the stars. She leaned on his shoulder. He looked at her and asked, "Was that a wedding?" Serena laughed softly. "I don't know." Jack smirked. "Should we do a proper one someday?" She smiled. "Only if I get to propose this time." They laughed together. Far above, the stars burned bright. But this time they weren't watching a prisoner or a bride. They were watching a beginning. Rebels in the shadows, in the deep corners of the planet's cities, beneath steel towers and crystal roads. Something new was rising. Not loud, not violent, but powerful. Whispers had become voices. Voices had become footsteps. And now, the footsteps were marching. They didn't carry weapons. They carried hope. And at the heart of it all was a story of a human soldier and the alien woman who chose freedom over fear. Jack and Serena walked through the lower city side by side, not hiding anymore, not running. The streets were changing. Where once silence ruled, now there were murals. One showed Jack protecting Serena. Another showed her standing between him and a blade. Some had simple messages painted in glowing ink. We choose. No more chains. Bond with heart, not law. A group of young alien girls ran past, them giggling. One of them turned back and whispered excitedly, "That's them." Serenia blushed. Jack smiled. "I think we started something." Later that night, they entered the rebel safe house. It was hidden behind a ruined library, only reachable through an old shaft. Inside, more than 50 aliens, mostly females, were gathered. Some wore robes, others armor, but all had the same fire in their eyes. The warrior leader stepped forward. "They're gathering forces. Loyalists of the Queen. They want to crush this movement before it spreads to other planets." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I thought the Queen bowed." The warrior nodded. "She did, but only on the surface. She didn't expect the people to follow you. Now she fears losing control." Another rebel added, "There are spies. Some want to restore the ritual. They say bonding by choice will bring chaos." Jack turned to Serenia. "They'll never let this change be easy." Serenia stepped forward. "Then we make it harder for them to stop us." The rebels had a plan. They needed to reach the central signal tower, a high pillar in the middle of the capital. From there, they could broadcast a message to the entire planet. And beyond. Not just stories, but truth, images, voice. Proof that the ritual had been a lie for generations. Jack agreed. "If the people see it, they'll stand with us." But the tower was guarded. Loyalist soldiers watched it day and night. Jack grinned. "Then we go in the back door." The next morning, Jack, Serenia, and the warrior rebel team crept through the underground passages. The tunnels were tight, hot, full of roots and broken metal. Jack used old military skills to scan the way, placing small sensors and traps as they moved. Serenia followed closely, her hand brushing his shoulder now and then. "Do you ever stop planning?" "Only when I sleep," Jack smirked. "And even then I dream of escape routes." They laughed quietly, something rare in the days before. Finally, they reached the base of the tower. Above them, guards moved on walkways. Jack pointed. "We split. I'll draw the guards. Serenia, you climb the signal core. Plug in the broadcast. Drive." The warrior shook her head. "No, too risky." Serenia stepped forward. "He's right, he's faster. I'll do the broadcast." Jack hesitated. "Are you sure?" She smiled. "This message has to come from me." Everything happened fast. Jack ran out first, throwing small smoke bombs. Alarms blared. Guards chased him through the pillars. At the same time, Serenia and two rebels climbed the hidden ladder up the tower. She reached the core, a glowing panel full of wires and strange lights. Her hands shook. But she pushed the drive into place. The signal blinked. "Live." She spoke. "This is Serenia of House Varel. I was chosen to be a ritual bride. I was told my body belonged to the law, but I chose another path. I chose love, and I chose it freely. The ritual is over. You are not vessels, you are voices." The message spread like fire. Screens across the capital lit up. Homes, halls, shops, even the royal palace. Alien women, young and old, stopped what they were doing and listened, and many of them cried. Back at the tower, Jack was captured. A stun shot hit him hard. Guards dragged him back, bleeding and weak. The Queen herself arrived. She looked at him coldly. "You made fools of us." Jack looked up, barely able to speak. "No, I made you look in a mirror." Before the Queen could answer, a noise rose behind her. Hundreds of footsteps. The people were coming, not with weapons, but with open hands. Alien mothers, daughters, even some guards laid down their arms. They had heard the message, and now they stood, between Jack and the Queen. The Queen looked at the crowd, then at Jack. Then she stepped back. "I see now," she said softly. "This world no longer belongs to me." She walked away, quiet, broken, and alone. Serenia reached Jack and held him tight. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Jack said, his voice rough. We did it, together. As the sun rose, the rebels didn't hide anymore. Because now, they weren't rebels. They were the new voice of the planet. And it had only just begun. The trial reversed. Human becomes judge. Weeks passed. The ritual was gone. The queen had vanished. But something else had taken its place, uncertainty. Old rules were broken. New voices were rising. But no one knew what came next. And in the center of it all stood a human man, once a prisoner, now something else. Jack sat on the steps of the old garden where the free bonding had taken place. His shirt was torn, his arm still healing from the stun blast, but his eyes were steady. Around him stood the leaders of the 5 major houses, female figures in flowing robes guarded by silence and tradition. But today, they had no power. Today they were called by the people, and the people had called Jack to speak. He wasn't a king, not a hero, not a prophet, but he had done one thing that no one else could. He said no when everyone else had been afraid to, and that made him a voice they trusted. One of the house elders stood. Human Jack Carter. We ask now, what system shall rise in place of the ritual? Who decides bonding? Who decides union? Jack looked at the crowd behind the elders. Mothers holding babies, girls with marks still fading from the past, servants standing beside warriors, Serena beside him, no longer just a ritual bride, now a symbol of free will. He stood slowly. I'm not from this world, Jack said. But I've lived your pain. I've seen your fear, and I've seen your strength. He turned to Serena. She showed me that even in a broken system, love can bloom. Then to the council he said, you don't need a new ritual. You need a new choice. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Jack continued, let bonding be a personal vow. Let no house choose for another. Let no throne decide love. An old councilwoman scoffed. Chaos will follow. What if females bond with the unworthy? Serena stepped forward, her voice calm. Then we learn, then we grow. That is freedom. A young girl from the crowd, barely 12, ran up and shouted, I want to choose too. The crowd laughed, gently, but behind their smiles were tears, because they knew the future had already started. Later, Jack walked through the city with Serena. Flags with new symbols flew above every building, 2 hands clasped, one human, one alien. The new emblem of choice. Food markets buzzed again, schools opened. The word bride was no longer whispered like a curse, and murals of Serena and Jack stood on every corner. Though Jack always laughed at how tall the artists made him. You've become a legend, Serena teased. I'd rather be your farmer husband, Jack grinned. You can't farm, she laughed. You can't even cook. But I can fight, he smirked. She took his hand. You already did. One day the queen returned, not with an army, but alone, wearing simple robes, no crown, no guards. She asked to see Jack. They met in the garden, where everything had started. The queen looked older now, tired. I thought power made peace, she said softly. But I was wrong. Jack didn't say anything. The queen looked at him. What would you have me do? Jack answered slowly. Tell the truth to every child about what we were, about what we chose to become. The queen nodded. I will. Years later, children ran through the streets, playing games once banned under old rules. Couples, human and alien, walked freely together. And in the town center stood a statue, not of kings, not of warriors, but of 2 people standing hand in hand. The plaque below read, they were told to obey, but they chose to love, and in doing so, they made us free. In a small home near the forest, Jack tended a quiet garden. Serena stood in the doorway, her belly round with life. He looked up and smiled. Ready? She nodded. Almost. He walked to her, took her hand, and whispered, no thrones, no laws, just us. She smiled. And our child will never know chains. And in the stars above, across far planets and forgotten empires, the tale spread of a soldier who said no, of a bride who said yes, and a world that was forever changed.